Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing? It's me, Mr. 4K Upscaler. What we're gonna be doing now is the calibration of power ranges in Dolby Vision. I'm gonna go switch through some scenes, and then based on that, I'm gonna go ahead and walk you through it on what I think is the best calibration for this movie. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and let's do this. Alright, so the first thing first, I'm going to leave the picture mode on the bright, because this is Dolby Vision and we need all the brightness that we can get, because the best way to utilize Dolby Vision is to have the picture mode set to the brightest. Picture size, we'll keep it on automatic. I usually go with a direct. Now you can use the zoom, but then you're going to lose that picture quality. You can keep it on direct if you want, but you can also leave it on automatic. Either automatic or direct will do it. Let's go to the advanced picture settings here. I have the picture mode on the bright. There's many different types. There's dark, but I don't recommend using the dark, nor do I recommend using the normal because of that blue UV light. I would just keep it on a bright HDR. Make sure you keep your local dimming zones at high at all times. As I said in my previous videos, you gotta have this at high. That's the whole idea of this TV, is that local dimming zones of 72. Backlit, brightness, and contrast. Whether you're watching HDR or Dolby Vision or any HDR format, hybrid log, gamma, or Technicolor HDR, advanced HDR, you want to have this like this. You want to keep all of this backlit 100, brightness 50, and contrast 100. Alright, so TV brightness brighter, picture mode bright, and let's go to advanced picture settings. Sharpness at 20, color at 50, and color temperature at warm. Now let's go through some scenes really quick here, and then we're gonna jump back into checking our calibration. We might have to adjust some more stuff, but let's go through it first. Here's really a good scene, and this is where the full array of local dimming helps Dolby Vision, where we get those perfect deep dark levels, and then we have those brights. Once you set your peak brightness to the brighter, and once you set Dolby Vision to the bright, this is what you get. Like in this dark, gritty, volcanic ash kind of like scene, you get more of a pop from Dolby Vision. Okay, and this is why Dolby Vision is more superior. It's superior not in terms of like that blasting peak brightness, but in terms of detail that peak brightness brings you. Like you see all sorts of stuff, all sorts of detail. You know what I mean? That's why it's highly, you know, regarded. Well, let's continue with some more scenes. And just look how light changes in the environment. And you see the way I set the color. I set the color at 50 because I do not want to oversaturate my color. You see, this is perfect because it's not oversaturating. If this thing was oversaturated, this entire thing would be bleeding of color, but it's not. And even here you can see that the color, it's at 50, it's perfect balance right there. Because remember, you know, it's okay, you know, to move the color a little bit depending on what type of movie you're watching. This one has a little bit of more eye candy because it's Power Rangers. So 50, it's a good balance. You know, 50 If I went like 60 or 70, then I would be oversaturating, and then I would be breaking the rules of calibration. But here I'm still within the rules of calibration, so 50, it's fine. Can we go to 55? Honestly, we could, but we can try it, and I don't think it's gonna really. I personally don't think it's necessary, but we can try it. Here. We can go to 55, 52, 53, 54, 55. You see, I'm already starting to sense more of oversaturation, because this is Dolby Vision. It already has the wide color gamut coloring, so I don't recommend 55. I would just keep it at 50. 50, all right? If we go 45, it's going to look more bleak. You see, now it's looking more bleak. So I would say keep it on 50 for this movie. I would keep it at 50. Sharpness, could we go 22? Yes, we could, but I think there's going to be too much of an outline if we do 22. You know. You see, there's too much outline. What I would recommend, actually, I would recommend for this movie 17. I think 17 and color 50. Now let's see how it looks. Let's go look at some other scenes really quick. Here's another great scene right here. You see how everything is balanced? You can see all the detail, even in this dark, murky, volcanic ash sort of a scenery. You know, you see like the sunset in the background, and everything, it's natural. It's not oversaturated. I know I keep repeating this, but I think it's very important that people remember that. This is actually what it says in the book. This book that I'm reading about the science of calibration. I forgot who wrote it. And it's like kind of like a body science of calibration on video production and TVs and film. And what it basically does, it teaches you the standard, like that all agrees on the TV panels, the standard of not going above the threshold of certain standards. Like the white balance has to be a certain standard. You're not supposed to go above it. That's why they use the CalMan, these equipments, to measure that standard, and that's how they calibrate. They calibrate based on that standard that's put in place by professional calibrators. Now, you can go a little bit above that standard, you know, depending on the content, but it's recommended that you stay with that standard. And that's the whole idea. The idea is for you to see all the detail, not to crush this movie, okay, with deep, dark levels. You've seen what happened when I moved the brightness to 40. Let me show you that example again. Let's use that example right here. Let's go through it. Let's say I want to move my brightness. Check, look what happens. Look, I just crushed. I even went to the 39. Look how much I crushed it. Why? Because you already have your local dimming zones to the highest. Therefore, you don't need to. You already got your deep, dark levels. You already have Dolby Vision. You don't need to mess around with the brightness. You want to leave that alone. You want to keep it at 50. Now, when you keep it at 50, you see all that detail that you're supposed to see in the movie, okay? So that's why the key thing I learned, and I made some mistake in the past because I didn't learn too much about calibration, but now since I learned about it a little bit more, I understand the key thing you're always looking for. It's to stay within the balance, within the regulations, rules of calibration. Meaning, too much of contrast, not good. Too much of brightness, not good. It has to be the certain balance. Remember, it has to be that equal balance, equilibrium. It's what you're looking for. So that everything on the panel looks visible. So you can see all that detail when you're watching this movie. Otherwise, you're going to lose all the detail that the film director and the set designers and CGI, special effects crew spend so much time to make this scene happen. They want you to see all of this, but the only way you're going to see it if you properly calibrate that. And this is something that I learned. You guys can learn about this. You can buy books. You can go online. There's various different types of ways for you to learn and to understand how to calibrate. All right, there's no excuse for you not to learn. I mean, you have Google, you have internet. You know, it's just a matter of laziness. Do you want to learn? Okay. And even in this scene, you can see even this this stick here. It's very visible. Everything on the ground, it's very visible. All right. I can even, if you want me to, I can zoom in a little bit, and you guys will see. If I zoom in, you guys will see. Actually, hold on. Let me do this really quick. Even if I zoom in, you guys will see all of that detail that's there on this film. See, you can see everything on the ground. You can even see the detail of the shadow here. See, you're not losing any detail. You're not crushing any deep dark levels. You can see everything the way it should be. And the reason why I chose this specific scene in the beginning of the movie, it's because of all of this murkiness. Okay, just how dark and murky it is, and for you to understand why it's important to calibrate everything equally, so that way you get that detail. So when you're watching a dark scene like this, murky, volcanic ashes, kind of like a dark scene, you get to see that detail. And then you're going to have the same experience when you're watching a brighter scene, more natural, bright scene with more eye candy, which I'm going to show you guys in a second. Then you will also notice that same equal experience in the picture. And even here, you can see that, you know, the detail that's there, man. Nothing gets crushed here. I purposely turn off my lights so you guys can see a little bit better. If I turn on my lights, then it's going to be reflection hitting the lens of the camera. So that's why I keep it in the dark so you guys can see what I'm talking about here. Here's another great scene right here. Everything it's murky and dark, and then you still see those clouds in the detail because you have that 72 zones of local dimming, and you got brightness at 50, you got contrast at 100, and you got backlit at 100, and on top of that you got Dolby Vision at brightest peak level. And even if I get my camera closer, you will see all that detail. You're not missing out anything, like all the clouds, everything, it's visible. And that's what you want, man. So especially in this type of a scene in the beginning where it's so murky and dark and has a lot of volcanic ash, so that's what you really like. You want to be able to see that detail. That's why you need to properly calibrate your television. Now, I don't have the professional equipment, but I am staying within the rules of calibration, and you guys can look them up. You know, everything I say here, you guys can look it up. You can go to Google, you can study, you can learn it. You know, it's not me talking out of my butt. Basically, everything I tell you here, it's exactly what you're going to hear from these professionals. They will recommend you use equipment, obviously, because that's their way of doing things. But even if they look at this, when they look at my calibration, they will agree, yeah, that this is within the standards of how it should be. And even here in this scene, you know, even though it's very dark, still you're not getting a deep dark level crushed. They're like exactly the way this scene intended it to be. And you see, like, when this light that pops out of that middle right there, you see how everything gets lit up. Like this plant right here, whatever this is, everything gets naturally lit up because now you have those balanced deep dark levels with a balanced brightness. You got the contrast, backlit, and Dolby Vision bright mode on, and that way, with that warm temperature level of color, and there you go. Now you got everything lit up here perfectly. I'm gonna do this like zoom by zoom, so you guys can see this. I don't mean zoom by zoom. What I mean by it's a frame by frame. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say zoom. I don't know why I said zoom. That was my bad. I mean, frame by frame, I want to show you what I'm talking about here, okay? You see lights getting a little bit brighter and brighter, so you get to see more and more on the ground. So I'm going to switch to another frame. And you see now here, you get to see everything in the background lit up nicely. You even see the detail right here on the on this brightness. And that's what you want, man, on a Dolby Vision, on an HDR. You know, the idea is not to have the peak brightness where it's killing your white brights. The idea is to have the brightness where you can see the detail within that brightness. And even here, with a high peak brightness, you still get to see the detail. You get to see that line opening it up. So it's a pleasant way of looking at it, because it's not damaging your eyes. You know, it's pleasant to look at it because you have everything equally balanced here. You can even see the particle dirts of ashes moving around, okay? And here you get to see what I was talking about. We went from a very dark, grim, dark ashes volcanic scene, and now we get to the daylight natural scene, and you see everything equally balanced. You get to see the clouds in the distance, the houses, the trees, the branches, the reflection of the water after the rain on the asphalt, the overshadowing on the buildings, the sunlight on the buildings equally balanced with that warm color. So this is what it's all about, guys, when you are calibrating HDR and Dolby Vision format. You have to go by these set of rules. I know I've seen some people, they oversaturate out of everything, and I just kind of, it's like, why would you oversaturate? Why would you have your color to 80 or 90, or why would you have your brightness to 30 or 20, or why would you have your gamma so low? Because you're losing the detail. You already have your deep dark levels. You don't need to move the gamma. The only reason I moved the gamma on the Samsung KS8000 is because I didn't have those deep dark levels that I needed, so I just moved it a little bit. But I didn't go, you know, above and beyond, out of the threshold. You know, what I'm trying to say, you have to stay by those calibrating rules if you truly want to see the detail in a movie. Whether it's a dark scene, bright scene, because movie will have all sorts of different types of environments, of scenes. So that's where the key elements of balance comes in. You see, like even this scene where the camera is focused on his father, it's not focused on him. You get to see all that detail, like on his beard, exactly as it should be, overshadowing exactly as it should be. You know, there's just one example. And even here on this scene, you get to see the reflection of the window on the car, reflecting the trees and the environment. You see that the green grass, it's not oversaturating his face. It's exactly balanced as it should be, and that's what it's all about, man. It's about finding the key balance. And even here on this scene, you get to see that exactly what I was talking about. Everything looks natural. That Levi's jacket, jeans jacket, and then his hair and everything, and the focus on him. And you're looking at the environment in the hallways and the locker rooms. So everything looks naturally balanced. And that's the key thing that you need to do when it comes to HDR Dolby Vision. Now, when you're doing a non-HDR format, it's a little bit different, okay? You might have to use different set of methods. But even with non-HDR content, you want to make sure you stay within the rules of standards, I would like to say, standards of calibrating process. And even right here, you can see that clearly. You know, nothing it's oversaturated, nothing it's over bright. Everything's natural, equal tone as it should. And the warm color will really is gonna make that look even better. That warm tone of color will do that as well. We'll keep that movie, the content, more eye-friendly, as I would like to say it. You guys can look it up. That blue UV light, it's not good for your eyes. Okay. And here's another great example. Him looking at his jersey and looking at the all of the you know, trophies he earned. So you can even read a class of 2012, all the coaches, for your time and support, with special thanks to you. So see, this is the kind of detail you want. You know, this is how you totally immerse yourself in the movie and experience the movie the way it was meant to be experienced, like you went to see in a movie theater. This is what you want. You know, this is the way I work. Now, I did make some mistakes in the past. You know, 8 months ago, 7 months ago, even 6 months ago, till I started like learning more and more about calibration and the process and how to do it. Once you understand it, then honestly, you'll know not to go above that standard and to keep it equal, to keep it balanced. But you have to understand like how it all works and why they have these standards. And even in this scene, it's a perfect example. You get to see that there is no overshadowing, that there is no deep dark levels being crushed. Everything, it's as natural and equal as you wanted it to be. Okay. Same thing here too. Another great example. And even in this scene right here, you will see that the overshadowing, it's perfectly aligned, that there is no deep dark levels being crushed. Even if I bring my camera closer, you will see exactly what I'm talking about. Nothing here is being crushed. It's as balanced as it can be. So that's how you calibrate the Dolby Vision. Okay, so thank you guys for watching. It's Mr. 4K Upscaler. Hopefully you guys pause the video, write these things down. Okay, thank you. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.